Golf is a club and ball sport in which players use various clubs to hit balls into a series of holes on a course in as few strokes as possible. It was first played in the 15th century in the Kingdom of Scotland and has been a part of the Olympics in the 1900, 1904, 2016, and the soon-to-be 2020 Olympics. So what muscles do we use during the golf swing? And in the first phase we have is the backswing. The backswing starts from the time the club starts movement to the top of the backswing. During the backswing, the most active muscle in the upper body is the upper trapezius on the right side at 52%, with the middle trap displaying the second highest reading of 37%. On the left side, the highest reading occurred in the subscapularis with 33%, followed by the upper serratus at 30%. In contrast, the most active muscle in the lower body is the semimembranosus and the long head of the biceps femoris on the right side at 28% and 27% respectively. On the left side, the most active muscle is the erector spinae at 26% and the abdominal oblique at 24%. In the next phase of the golf swing, we have the forward swing. The forward swing starts at the top of the swing and ends when the club is horizontal to the ground. Early part of downswing. The most active muscle in the upper body during this phase in the upper body on the left side is the rhomboid at 68% and the middle trapezius at 51%. On the right side, the most active muscles are the pectoralis major at 64% and the upper serratus at 58%. The most active muscle during the forward swing phase in the lower body are the upper and lower gluteus maximus at 100% and 98% on the right side, along with the biceps femoris, 78%. On the left side, the most active muscle are the vastus lateralis, 88%, and the adductor magnus at 63%. The next phase of the golf swing would be acceleration. The acceleration phase starts from the horizontal club to the impact of the ball, late part of the downswing. This phase of the swing sees the pectoralis major muscle bilaterally being the most active muscle at 93% in the upper body. On the right side, the second most active muscle is the upper serratus anterior at 69%. On the left side, the levator scapula is the most active muscle at 62%. In the lower body, the acceleration phase sees the left biceps femoris at 83% being the most active muscle, with the left upper and lower gluteus maximus, along with the vastus lateralis being the second most active muscles at 58%. On the right side, the abdominal oblique at 59% is the most active muscle, followed by the gluteus medius at 51%. In the next phase of the golf swing, we have the early follow-through. The early follow-through starts at impact to when the club is horizontal to the ground. In the upper body, the most active muscle during the early follow-through is the pectoralis major, bilaterally, 74%, followed by the right subscapularis at 64% and the infraspinatus on the left side at 61%. The most active muscle in the lower body during the early follow-through is the left long head of the biceps femoris at 79% and left vastus lateralis at 59%. The right gluteus medius, 59%, is the most active right-sided muscle, followed by the abdominal oblique at 51%. The last phase of the golf swing would be the late follow-through. The late follow-through starts when the club is horizontal to the ground and ends at the completion of the swing. The most active muscles in the upper body during the late follow-through on the left are the infraspinatus at 40% and the pectoralis major at 39%. On the right side, the most active muscles are the subscapularis at 56%, followed by the upper and lower serratus anterior at 40%. In the lower body, the most active left-sided muscles are the semimembranosus and vastus lateralis at 42%, followed by the adductor magnus at 35%. On the right side, the vastus lateralis muscle at 40% is the most active muscle, followed by the gluteus medius at 22%. The research showed the key lower body muscle was the gluteus maximus, while the key upper body muscles were the pectoralis major, latissimus dorsi, core, and forearm muscles. The gluteus maximus was shown to be responsible for hip external and internal rotation on the backswing and downswing, as well as hip extension, which is what gets you into the nice balanced posture during your finish. The pectoralis and latissimus were shown to create strong shoulder adductors, which allows you to bring your arms across your body and raise them in the air. The core, which is considered the glue that holds the swing together, transmits force from the lower body into the upper body and helps you rotate your torso. Last but not least, the forearms transmit all of the force created by the body into the club. So now we're going to go over the injuries that can occur to a golfer. The number one would be back pain, and an estimated 75 to 85% of all Americans will experience back pain at some point in their lifetime. And if you think about golfers, there's a good chance that it's going to be higher in the number of golfers that you see. The rotational stresses of the swing can place considerable pressure on the spine and muscles. Compound that with the fact that golfers are spending 4 to 5 hours in a bent over stance, repeating the same motion hundreds of times. It's no wonder that playing golf can cause minor strains in the back that can easily lead to severe injuries. To keep your back healthy for golf, I would add exercises and stretches and try and strengthen your back. The next body part that we'll talk about would be the elbow. Tendinitis of the elbow. Tendinitis is irritation and inflammation of the tendon tissue, and the most common condition affecting the elbow. It is frequently referred to as tennis elbow when it's dealing with the outer tendon or lateral tendon. And then the next one would be golfer's elbow when it's the medial tendon or inner tendon. Interestingly enough, most golfers suffer more from tennis elbow or lateral epicondylitis than golfer's elbow, medial epicondylitis. The risk of getting tendinitis increases with age and is higher in people who routinely perform activities that require repetitive movements that increase stress on tendons, such as hitting golf balls. In addition, these type of injuries can be aggravated by improper swing motion. After the elbow, we're going to talk about knee. Knee pain is the next most common injury. Knee pain can occur from the strain placed on a weak knee to stabilize the rotation of the hip axis at the beginning of the swing. Extreme force placed on the knee can result in torn ligaments. Arthritis sufferers may experience more knee problems because of the degenerative nature of the disease, which results in a gradual wearing away of joint cartilage. After the knee joint, we're going to talk more about the rotator cuff. Pain may be felt in the shoulder or upper arm at various phases of the golf swing or following play, often during the night and when extending arms overhead. Injuries to the rotator cuff can be sustained through traumatic force, resulting from a poorly executed golf swing, hitting a root or a rock, taking a deep divot, and from overuse. Golfers can develop tendinitis, bursitis, and tears in the rotator cuff due to the repetitive motion of the golf swing. After the rotator cuff, wrist injuries are common. The repetitive motion of golf and the high speed of the typical swing can place wrists at a high risk for injury. Pain and tenderness on the top of the wrist experienced at the top of the backswing and at impact are common. The most common golf-related wrist injury is tendinitis or swelling of the tendons responsible for wrist movement. Many wrist injuries, as well as other golf-related injuries, can be prevented by a preseason and a year-round golf-specific conditioning program. After the wrist injuries, then we're going to have hand and finger injuries. Much with the wrist injuries, the repetitive motion of golf and the high speed of the typical swing can place the hands and fingers at a high risk for injury. Repetitive blunt trauma or single severe trauma to the fingers can lead to numerous conditions, such as tendinitis, broken or deformed bones, and a condition called hypothenar hammer syndrome or HHS. The next most common injury after the fingers and hand is going to be the neck. And neck injuries are common in new golfers who are not used to twisting their bodies so much. After a few hours of swinging the club and hitting balls, the neck muscles may shorten in spasm and freeze the neck into a painful position. So after the neck, the next body part we're going to talk about are the foot and the ankle injuries. Throughout the golf swing, the body acts as a whip. Power production starts with the feet pushing against the ground. Each foot moves differently during a golf swing. The back foot must allow for the pronation during the follow-through of the golf swing, then the front foot. Injuries can occur when the golfer loses his or her footing or balancing during the swing, while performing the swing with the improper swing mechanics, and when hitting a ball off an uneven surface. And last but not least, we're going to talk about Hip injuries. The hip joint is usually very mobile and able to withstand large amounts of loading stresses, but is particularly vulnerable to injury during golf. Since the swing involves a tremendous amount of pivoting and twisting movements, during the golf swing, the hip is subjected to repeated adduction and flexion extension forces. This requires a great deal of control throughout the gluteal muscles and the adductor muscle complex. It is these rotational and shear forces that cause injuries such as growing strains and low back injuries.